I still remember the night she appeared, as clear as if it happened yesterday. The mining colony of Caros 9 was never quiet, not really, always the endless hum of reactors, the hiss of air recyclers, the deep groan of steel bending under its own weight. But it was lonely. Out there on the edge of nothing, I often felt more machine than man. That night, I was out near the docking bay, fixing a power relay that had been sparking for days. I was half asleep, half bored, when the proximity alarms tripped. At first, I thought it was another stray rock drifting in from the asteroid belt. But when I checked the scanners, my heart stopped. It was a pod. Small, battered, and spinning out of control. Most pods we found like that were coffins. This one wasn't. I pulled it in with the emergency grappler, and when the airlock hissed open, I saw her. A girl, though not human. Her skin shimmered like blue crystal, glowing faintly under the flickering lights. Her hair clung to her face, damp with condensation, and her lips moved as if trying to form words. She was fragile, trembling, and so cold it hurt to touch her. I should have reported it immediately. That's what the manual said. Unknown life forms were to be quarantined, documented, and handed to the officials. But when her eyes opened, wide, luminous, filled with something between terror and hope, I couldn't. She whispered a sound, soft and broken, in a language I didn't understand, then collapsed against me. I carried her back to my quarters like she weighed nothing. I wrapped her in my only thermal blanket, patched her wounds with stolen medgel, and shared my rations. She never gave me her name. And when she vanished weeks later, I thought she was gone forever. I had no idea what I had set in motion. 10 years can turn memory into something that feels like a dream. Sometimes I wondered if I had imagined her, the blue girl in the stasis pod, the luminous eyes, the fragile weight in my arms. Life on Caros 9 had a way of grinding down anything extraordinary until it felt like dust. The colony was harsher than ever. Work shifts stretched longer, quotas tightened, and the overseers treated us like tools instead of people. I aged faster than I should have, my hands calloused, my back stiff, my spirit tired. Most nights, I convinced myself she had been nothing more than a lonely boy's fantasy. Then the warships came. At first, they appeared as streaks of light against the stars, shadows blotting out the glow of Caros 9's failing satellites. Sleek vessels of blue and silver descended into orbit, their hulls shifting with strange patterns as though alive. The colony went silent. Families locked themselves in their quarters, alarms howled across the corridors, and whispers of invasion raced faster than fire. I had seen pirates, smugglers, and corporate enforcers before, but these ships were something else. They radiated power. When the landing craft touched down in the central square, I joined the crowd. Soldiers poured out, tall, armored beings with weapons that hummed like caged storms. We all bowed, not out of loyalty, but fear. And then I saw her. She stepped onto the platform, her presence silencing the entire colony. Her hair flowed long now, braided with crystalline threads. A crown rested on her brow, carved from a glowing mineral that pulsed like a heartbeat. Her armor was regal, polished to a mirror sheen, covered in symbols I couldn't decipher. But none of that mattered. Because beneath the crown, beneath the power, I saw her face. The girl I had once saved. And when her eyes found mine, everything else disappeared. That night, I was taken from my quarters without warning. 2 of her soldiers appeared at my door, silent as statues, their armor humming faintly with power. They didn't explain, didn't threaten, didn't need to. I followed them through the colony's empty corridors, past frightened faces peeking from doorways, until we reached the shuttle bay. A sleek craft awaited, glowing faintly in the dim light. Within minutes, I was aboard her flagship. The ship was unlike anything I had ever seen. Human vessels were functional, all sharp angles and exposed steel. This one felt alive. Its corridors pulsed with a faint blue glow, like veins carrying light instead of blood. The air smelled faintly of minerals, sharp and clean, and the walls resonated with a low hum that made my chest vibrate. I felt as though I was walking through the ribs of a sleeping giant. And then she was there. The queen sat upon a crystalline dais, the crown catching the light with every breath she took. But when she looked at me, it was not with the cold authority she had shown the others. Her voice was steady, rich, layered with command, yet beneath it lingered something familiar. "You saved me when no one else would," she said. "I have not forgotten." I could barely find words. The girl I had carried from a broken pod was now commanding fleets. She explained her truth, how she had been a fugitive princess hunted by an empire that destroyed her family. How she had escaped, gathered what survivors she could, and forge them into something new, something powerful. Then she spoke of danger. Not just to her people, but to mine. The same empire that had tried to erase her had turned its eyes toward Earth. "You gave me mercy," she said. "Now I offer you a choice: stand with me, or watch your world burn." Her words burned in my mind long after she spoke them. She didn't rush me, didn't press me for an answer, only watched with those luminous eyes that carried both the weight of a crown and the echo of the girl I once knew. I asked her to tell me everything, and she did. She painted the story with precision, each word sharper than steel. She told me how the empire that hunted her was older than most civilizations in the quadrant, ruthless in its hunger for control. When her family resisted, they were slaughtered, palaces reduced to glass, cities to ash. She had escaped only by chance, drifting into the void, where I had found her. What I thought was an act of kindness had been the seed of her survival. In the years since, she had rebuilt. Not with armies bought through fear, but with exiles, orphans, and outcasts who believed in her dream of freedom. Together, they had carved out a kingdom from the edges of forgotten space. Every jewel in her crown, every sigil etched into her armor, was paid for with sacrifice. But the empire hadn't forgotten. And now, they were expanding into human territory. Earth, still young among the stars, was defenseless compared to them. She didn't come to Karos 9 as a conqueror, she came as a warning. Then she turned to me. Out of all the people in the galaxy, she chose me. Not her generals, not her council, me. "You are human," she said softly. "Your people will not trust me, but they may trust you. You saved me when I was helpless. Now I ask you to help me save them." I should have walked away. I was just a miner, a man who fixed broken machines. What right did I have to stand beside a queen? And yet, looking at her, I couldn't say no. The first time I saw her fleets clash with the Empire's, I understood just how small humanity truly was. We had ships, yes, blocky freighters repurposed into carriers, sleek patrol vessels armed with missile pods, but compared to hers, they were children's toys. Her warships moved like predators, their hulls bending light itself, their weapons tearing holes in space. And yet, even with all her power, the Empire struck with terrifying force. I stood on the command deck of her flagship as the void lit up with battle. Plasma beams cut across the dark like rivers of fire, while torpedoes blossomed into suns that flared and died within seconds. Whole cruisers broke apart silently, their crews swallowed by the black. Every vibration under my boots reminded me that we could die at any moment. But humanity adapts. It's what we've always done. When her warriors fought with precision and honor, our people fought with chaos. Earth's pilots pulled stunts no one trained for, slingshotting ships through asteroid debris, using broken satellites as cover, even ramming smaller vessels straight into enemy hulls. What we lacked in elegance, we made up for with sheer stubbornness. At first, her soldiers looked at us with disbelief, then with admiration. They had never seen anyone so reckless, so desperate to win. To them, war was duty. To us, it was survival. And survival makes you dangerous. Through it all, she never faltered. Her voice carried across the command deck, calm and unyielding. Orders came like music, each one turning chaos into purpose. Yet, when she turned her eyes on me, the mask of royalty slipped just a little. For a heartbeat, I saw the girl wrapped in my old blanket, the one who had whispered in a language I couldn't understand. And I realized, I would follow her anywhere. The pursuit began like every other. Our fleet had driven the enemy back, system by system, until they retreated into a dying star's graveyard. Fragments of shattered worlds circled the burning core, asteroids spun like blades, and radiation storms twisted sensors into lies. It looked like desperation, like a cornered beast fleeing into fire. But desperation can be a weapon. We followed. That was the mistake. The first wave struck without warning, dozens of hidden ships emerging from the asteroid field, their hulls masked by the star's interference. They fell on us like wolves, ripping through our vanguard before we even knew what had happened. Alarms screamed, the deck shook, and comms dissolved into static. Her fleet, so disciplined and precise, buckled under the weight of chaos. I saw the flagship take hit after hit, energy shield sparking, hull plating shattering. Officers shouted over one another, trying to salvage order. She stood at the center of it all, unflinching, her crown catching the flicker of emergency lights. "Retreat," I begged. "You can regroup, strike back later." Her jaw set like stone. A queen does not abandon her people. Another blast rocked the ship, throwing me against the console. Smoke filled the air, systems failing one after another. We were being carved apart piece by piece, the trap tightening with every passing second. Still, she refused to leave. Her voice carried over the chaos, commanding the remaining ships to hold formation, to fight even as the walls closed in. Watching her, I felt a surge of something stronger than fear, fury, pride, loyalty all tangled together. If we were going to die, then I would die here, beside her. Not as a miner. Not even as her advisor. But as the man who once saved her, and chose to stand with her again. We should have been finished. The flagship's hull was cracked, its engines bleeding fire, and the enemy fleet pressed in like a tightening noose. Every screen showed red warnings, every voice on the comms carried despair. I thought it was the end. Then space itself tore open. Human ships poured through the breach. Not the polished carriers of the United Earth Navy, but everything else, freighters, mining rigs, patrol craft, even outdated colony haulers strapped with missile racks. Thousands of vessels, patched together with human stubbornness, descended into the fray. It was chaos incarnate. The enemy had numbers, discipline, technology. But humanity had something else, defiance. Our ships didn't move in neat lines, they swarmed, collided, improvised. Pilots used asteroids as weapons, slingshotting debris into enemy hulls. Old haulers overloaded their cores, turning themselves into bombs to take down cruisers twice their size. The Empire expected fear. What they got was fury. The tide turned. The flagship systems flickered back online, and beside her throne, I saw hope return to her eyes. Together, our fleet struck back, human unpredictability meshing with her people's precision. By the time the star's light dimmed behind us, the enemy was broken, their formation shattered, their pride bleeding out into the void. When the last of their ships fled, silence filled the deck. We had survived. She rose, crown glowing faintly, and turned to me. Her voice was softer now, carrying none of the Queen's command. "You saved me once," she whispered. "Now, together, we have saved them all." The war wasn't over. The Empire would return, and battle still loomed ahead. But in that moment, standing beside her as victory fires burned across the night sky, I knew this truth. She was no longer just the blue girl I had rescued, and I was no longer just a miner. Together, we had become something greater. Something the galaxy would never forget.